Hi, welcome to valuationpodcast.com, a podcast and video series about all things related to business and valuation. My name is Melissa Gragg, and I'm a divorce valuation and mediation expert in St. Louis, Missouri. I have the pleasure of discussing today a fabulous book called the Forensic Accounting Deskbook with my guest, Miles Mason, a divorce lawyer in Memphis, Tennessee. So he's actually written this book, the Forensic Accounting Deskbook, and it's a practical guide to financial investigation and analysis for family lawyers. But I also think it's a really important resource for business valuation experts. Welcome, Miles. One thing that we don't always talk about is that there are gray areas in valuation. There's the art part as opposed to the science. And that is where a lot of the disagreements come when it's gray, when you have, even in the valuation community, you have leaders in the community that are saying, opposing viewpoints on the same topic. Well, then you have fodder for each expert to say, well, so-and-so's saying this and so-and-so's saying this. And then the judge is like, now I'm even more confused. But I think that from advice to the expert is that one way to try to prevent that is to have more of your emphasis and your assumptions be in some supportable position. So if you're going to make a growth rate assumption, have another document, a research report that supports it, right?
Right. But in my experience, when we have an outrageous assumption, the good news is those outrageous assumptions are usually not supported. Mm-hmm. Okay. So when you've got two top-notch experts and there's a theoretical difference, like, as you were discussing, usually that's going to move the needle some, but not so much that you can't settle around it. Mm-hmm. So the question is, you as a lawyer, we have to say, are we talking about just a difference of opinion, or are we talking about a manipulation? Mm-hmm. And when you can't tell the difference because the impact on that difference, that's when it gets a little weird. But usually when I see, and my expert tells me, we've got a number here that makes no sense and it's not justified, and there's no reference to any supporting information, well, we're going to have to depose the expert because they wrote a crappy report.
Right.
And that's one of the things that we'll talk about later. Reports that are, and what they're going to do is the expert who's using that crappy number is probably relied on some software and may not even know where that number comes from.
That's true. Well,
or is taking an average of A, B, and C, and A, B, and C have no reality.
Right.
To the no basis in reality for that particular business.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have some more opinions, but we'll keep moving. But one of the things that you also said that, an expert kind of comes at the beginning and looks at the documents. Well, the attorney has to review the documents, the expert reviews the documents. But then there are clearly kind of financial red flags that we're looking for just to indicate whether, it's going to have some impact. And again, we're still referencing because all of this information is in the Forensic Accounting Deskbook. But talk to us a little bit about some of the financial red flags that you're looking for in a divorce.
Right. Well, my point in writing the book, and I was very lucky to have a lot of other forensic accountants help me with coming up with what, as you're reading it, appears to be an exhaustive list, 20-something different items. But some of them are so common. Let me go through some of those. So obviously when I get the spouse that has no access to any financial information at all for decades. So what about username and passwords? What are those? Okay. Right. That's obviously. The secretive spouse about financial affairs, obviously. I always look for unreimbursed business expenses on the tax return, because if there are plenty of spouses out there that say, just give me a check for my reimbursed business expenses, and that's going to go to a separate account. Another fan favorite, so to speak, is the Quicken or QuickBooks program that was on a computer where the hard drive crashed, right before the filing of the divorce. So the hard drive's just gone.
Right.
All right. Now, back in the day, I had a number of hard drives crash on me, but I didn't happen to have the family finances on that computer. So my other favorite, and we can go into even more, but my favorite is when the business owner, about to go through a divorce, uses for their accounting and tax somebody who's not a CPA. Because if I've got a CPA in charge of records for taxes and or helping the business owner put together a personal financial statement for their credit facility, I know that there's a very low chance that CPA is going to lie under oath for that particular client. Now, sometimes they may be personal friends and go on business trips together. But if it's a CPA, I'm going to get them a subpoena as early as I can, tell them, and remind them of the Arthur Anderson subpoena story, and say, don't delete. I'll even come to your office and tell you what we need. Because 99% of the time, I can go through a drawer for my client, couple of hours. We don't need to copy everything. I know I want the depreciation schedules. I want the key tax returns. I want supporting schedules and attachments for the tax returns and any general ledgers, obviously. But the point is, the CPA status means so much during a case. When we don't have it, I think that in and of itself is a red flag.